My name is Sarah Miller. I'm 34 years old, and for 8 years I worked 60 hours a week as a senior commercial risk manager in downtown Austin, Texas. I bought my 4-bedroom suburban home with my own hard-earned savings, 2 years before I ever met my husband, Mark. My name is the only name on the deed. My money paid every single cent of the mortgage, the property taxes, and the home insurance. So when my mother-in-law, Evelyn, decided to throw a $60,000 destination wedding for her youngest daughter inside my house, without asking my permission, without inviting me to the planning, and while treating me like a hired maid in my own living room, she thought she was establishing family dominance. She thought that because 14 out-of-town guests were already staying in my guest rooms, and because caterers were setting up ice sculptures on my hardwood floors, I would stay quiet, smile for the photos, and pay the bills just to avoid making an uncomfortable scene. She didn't know that while she was raising a champagne glass to toast her daughter on my patio, the local county sheriff was already pulling into my driveway with an emergency writ of possession and an immediate eviction order. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. Before I revealed the exact sentence, I said to the sheriff in front of 75 gasping wedding guests, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below. Your support keeps these real stories coming. Let me take you back 3 weeks before the caterers arrived. My husband's sister, Chloe, is 26. She has never held a job for more than 4 months, yet she speaks to service workers like she owns the establishment. When she got engaged to a guy whose parents run a wealthy real estate firm, Evelyn decided this wedding was her personal ticket into high society. The problem was simple. Evelyn didn't have $50,000, neither did Chloe. On a Tuesday afternoon, while I was leading an online corporate risk assessment from my home office, I heard heavy footsteps downstairs. I walked down to find Evelyn, Chloe, and a woman holding a clipboard, measuring my formal dining room. Sarah, good, you're up, Evelyn said, not even looking at me. We're moving the dining table into the garage. The wedding reception needs a buffet line right here. I stood on the bottom step, completely stunned. What are you talking about, Evelyn? Chloe's wedding venue fell through, Evelyn said casually, checking her reflection in my hallway mirror. The country club wanted a $20,000 deposit. That's absurd. So we decided your house is perfect. You have the large backyard, the renovated kitchen, and 4 guest rooms for the groom's family. I looked at Mark, who was standing near the kitchen counter holding a coffee mug, looking anywhere except at my eyes. Mark, I said, keeping my voice dangerously steady. Did you know about this? Babe, come on, Mark muttered, crossing his arms. It's just for 1 weekend. They were in a tough spot. Family helps family. It's not just 1 weekend, Mark, I replied. This is my property. You don't host an 80-person wedding without asking the person who pays the mortgage. Evelyn turned around, her face instantly turning cold. Your property? You've been married to my son for 3 years, Sarah. What's his is yours, and what's yours is his. Stop being so possessive over drywall and grass. It's ugly. That was the moment the trap was laid. But Evelyn didn't know that in commercial risk management, when someone tries to occupy your asset by force, you don't argue. You quietly start gathering evidence. That evening, I called a family meeting in my living room. I sat in my armchair with a copy of my property deed sitting on the coffee table right between us. Evelyn, Chloe, Mark, I said calmly. I'm going to be very clear. I did not give permission for an 80-person event in my house. You have 48 hours to cancel the caterers and find an actual commercial venue. Chloe burst into instant tears, throwing her face into her hands. You're ruining my dream wedding. You've always hated me, Sarah. You just can't stand seeing me happy. Evelyn slammed her coffee cup onto my glass table hard enough that I heard it crack slightly. How dare you speak to us like that in front of my son? You are a cold, selfish woman, Sarah. You have a 4-bedroom house and you're hoarding it like a dragon. Mark pays for things too. Mark pays $300 a month toward utilities, I replied, looking directly at my husband. My name is the only name on the title deed. My money paid the down payment. I pay the mortgage. Mark, tell your mother the truth. Mark looked at the floor, rubbing the back of his neck. Sarah, come on. Just let them have the weekend. It's my family. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. It's not nothing, Mark, I said softly. It's my boundaries. Evelyn stood up, smoothing down her blouse with a smug smirk on her face. The invitations are already sent, Sarah. The wedding party arrives on Thursday. What are you going to do? Call the cops on your husband's mother and sister. Think about how that looks to your precious corporate job. You won't do a thing. She walked out toward the guest bedroom, Chloe following behind her, throwing a look of pure spite over her shoulder. Mark stayed sitting on the couch, refusing to meet my eyes. "You should just go along with it, Sarah," Mark whispered. "If you fight them on this, my mom will never forgive you." "I don't care about her forgiveness, Mark," I said quietly. "I care about my respect." Over the next 3 days, my quiet suburban home was transformed into an absolute nightmare. Delivery trucks parked on my manicured lawn, leaving deep tire ruts in the soft grass. Professional florists brought in hundreds of lilies, despite knowing I have severe floral allergies. Every time I tried to speak, Evelyn made sure to raise her voice and talk over me in front of the workers. On Wednesday afternoon, 2 days before the ceremony, I walked into my master bedroom after returning from a quick grocery run. My heart dropped to my stomach. All of my personal belongings, my clothes, my shoes, my jewelry boxes, were packed into black garbage bags stacked in the hallway. Chloe's massive white wedding dress was hanging from my ceiling fan, and her bridesmaids were unpacking their suitcases onto my silk bedsheets. Evelyn was standing near my vanity, adjusting her lipstick. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Oh, Sarah," Evelyn smiled, not turning around. "The groom's parents need the master suite. They're very wealthy and we can't have them staying in a small guest room. You and Mark can sleep on the pull-out sofa in the basement for the week." "You threw my clothes into trash bags?" I asked, stepping toward her. "It was the fastest way to clear the room," she shrugged. "Now please leave. We're doing makeup trials in here." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't throw a scene. I picked up my purse, walked down to my car, parked around the corner on a quiet residential street, and opened my laptop. I dialed the direct line from my real estate attorney, David, and briefed him on every single detail. David listened quietly for 5 minutes before speaking. "Sarah, since you are the sole property owner and there is no lease agreement with your in-laws, their actions constitute illegal occupancy and property damage. If they attempt to host a commercial event without a city permit on your private property, you have full legal grounds for an emergency eviction." "How fast can we get the sheriff?" I asked. "I'm filing the emergency order with the county judge right now," David replied. "We'll have the writ signed by Friday morning." I closed my laptop and took a deep breath. Evelyn thought I was trapped by social pressure. She didn't realize she was walking directly into a legal vice. Thursday night was the rehearsal dinner, and my house felt like a crowded, chaotic train station. Over 30 people were standing around my island counter, drinking my imported wine, eating expensive deli platters, and leaving grease marks on my leather chairs. Nobody spoke to me. If I walked into a room, the conversation instantly stopped until I turned around and walked out. Mark came down to the basement at midnight, finding me working on my laptop under a dim floor lamp. "Sarah, my mom says you're being passive-aggressive by staying down here," he said, folding his arms. "Just come upstairs and act like a normal hostess." I looked up from my screen. "Mark, your sister's friends are sleeping in our bed. Your mother moved my clothes into garbage bags, and you expect me to go upstairs and pour them drinks? It's one night," he snapped, raising his voice. "Why do you always have to make everything about money and ownership? You're acting like a landlord, not a wife." "I am a landlord, Mark," I said calmly. "And this is my house. You've let your mother step on me for 3 years because you're too terrified to stand up to her. But tomorrow, this ends." Mark laughed, shaking his head. "What does that even mean? Tomorrow is the wedding. The pastor is coming at 2 p.m. The caterers are setting up at 10 a.m. There's nothing you can do without making yourself look insane." "We'll see," I said, turning back to my computer screen. Friday morning arrived, bright and hot. By 9 in the morning, 2 large catering vans were parked on my grass, running loud generators that shook the living room windows. A team of 6 workers was erecting a giant white canopy tent in my backyard, driving metal stakes deep into my irrigation system, smashing 3 sprinkler heads in the process. Evelyn was strutting around the back patio in a dark emerald silk dress, shouting orders at the flower arrangers. Chloe was upstairs in my master bedroom with 4 hairstylists, blasting music that echoed down the hallway. At 11:30 a.m., I saw the groom's parents arrive in a shiny black luxury SUV. Richard and Victoria Sterling were classic high society people. Richard was wearing a tailored suit, looking around my property with a slight nod of approval. Evelyn rushed out to greet them, practically bowing as she ushered them into my kitchen. "Richard, Victoria, welcome to our family estate," Evelyn beamed, her voice loud enough for the whole room to hear. "We wanted an intimate luxury setting for the kids, so we decided to host it at our family residence here in Austin." I was sitting at the breakfast nook in a simple black blazer and jeans, sipping a glass of iced water. Victoria Sterling walked over, looking down at my glass. "Oh, are you one of the event coordinators?" she asked politely. Before I could answer, Evelyn cut in with a fake, high-pitched laugh. Oh no, Victoria. This is Sarah, Mark's wife. She helps out with the household logistics. Sarah, dear, why don't you head into the kitchen and make sure the seafood platters are kept cold on ice? The entire room went quiet for a second. Chloe's friends giggled into their champagne flutes. Mark cleared his throat, pretending to look at his phone. I set my glass down on the counter with a quiet, deliberate click. I don't work for the catering company, Victoria, I said, smiling politely. And this isn't Evelyn's family estate. This is my private residence. I bought it. I pay for it. And as of 20 minutes ago, the city has officially flagged this entire setup as an unpermitted illegal event. Evelyn's face instantly flushed red. Sarah, shut your mouth right now. How dare you embarrass us in front of the groom's family? I'm not embarrassing you, Evelyn, I said quietly, looking at my watch. I'm giving you a 5-minute warning. Evelyn grabbed my arm, her fingers digging deep into my sleeve. Her voice dropped to a harsh, desperate whisper. You listen to me, you ungrateful little girl, she hissed, her eyes wide with rage. If you ruin this day for Chloe, I will make sure Mark divorces you by Monday morning. You will be left with nothing. I gently pulled my arm out of her grip, smoothing down my blazer. Evelyn, Mark can file for divorce whenever he wants. But as for this house, you have 3 minutes left. Richard Sterling looked back and forth between us, his eyebrows raised in sharp concern. Evelyn, what is going on here? Is this property not owned by your family? Before Evelyn could scramble to invent another lie, a loud official knock echoed through the front entryway. 3 heavy, firm thuds on the solid oak door. The entire kitchen went dead silent. The chatter stopped. The caterers paused mid-pour. I walked past Evelyn, past Mark, who was standing frozen near the hallway, and opened the front door wide. Standing on my front porch were 2 uniformed Travis County Sheriff deputies, along with my attorney David, holding an official legal folder. Parked right in my driveway, blocking the catering vans, were 2 official county patrol cars with their light bars flashing quiet blue and red reflections against my windows. Sarah Miller, Deputy Vance asked, looking at his clipboard. Yes, Deputy, I said clearly. I am the sole title owner of this property. David stepped forward, handing a certified document to the officer. Deputy, as per the emergency order signed by Judge Roberts 2 hours ago, my client is executing an immediate trespass eviction and stop work order for an illegal commercial event on private residential property. Deputy Vance nodded, stepping inside the foyer. His boots clacked loudly against the hardwood floor. All right, everyone listen up. Deputy Vance's voice boomed across the living room, cutting through the silence like a knife. This is an official notice from the Travis County Sheriff's Office. This property is private, and the legal owner has filed an immediate order of removal. All unauthorized guests, caterers, and vendors must vacate the premises immediately. Evelyn practically sprinted from the kitchen into the hallway, her face completely pale, her hands trembling. Officer! Officer! There's been a massive misunderstanding, she shrieked. This is my son's house. We are hosting my daughter's wedding. She's getting married in 2 hours. Deputy Vance didn't even blink. He pulled out his notepad. Ma'am, who is the registered deed holder of this address? Evelyn choked on her words, looking frantically at Mark. Mark, tell him you live here. Mark stepped forward, his voice shaking. Officer, I'm her husband. I live here too. David stepped right between them. Deputy, Mr. Mark Miller's name is not on the deed, the mortgage, or any property tax records. Furthermore, under Texas property law, a spouse cannot grant third-party permission for commercial events or unauthorized long-term guests over the explicit objection of the sole deed holder. The court order is absolute. Deputy Vance looked at Mark, then turned to the crowd of 70 guests who were now staring in absolute horror. You have 15 minutes to gather your personal belongings and clear the driveway, Deputy Vance announced firmly. Anyone remaining after 15 minutes will be processed for criminal trespass. What followed in the next 20 minutes was absolute chaotic bedlam. Chloe came running down the stairs in her white wedding dress, her veil half attached, crying hysterically as her bridesmaids scrambled to throw shoes, curling irons, and garment bags into the trunks of their cars. Richard Sterling, the groom's wealthy father, walked straight up to Evelyn with a cold, disgusted expression. Evelyn, Richard said, his voice dripping with venom. You told us you owned this estate. You lied to us about your wealth. You lied about the venue. And you dragged my family into a police eviction. This wedding is cancelled. He turned on his heel, grabbed his son by the shoulder, and walked out to his SUV. Chloe let out an ear-piercing scream, collapsing onto the driveway pavement as the Sterling family drove away without looking back. The caterers began violently tearing down the white canopy tent, throwing folding chairs into the back of their trucks. Evelyn was standing near the front porch, screaming at the sheriff, screaming at the caterers, and screaming at me, until Deputy Vance placed his hand on his handcuffs and gave her a final warning. She grabbed her designer purse and stormed down the driveway, cursing my name with every single step. Mark stood in the empty living room, surrounded by crushed flower petals, tipped over wine glasses, and total silence. Satisfied, he spat at me, his eyes red and filled with rage. You destroyed my sister's life. You ruined my family. Happy now? I walked over to the front door, held it open wide, and looked him right in the eye. Your family destroyed themselves the moment they thought my hard work was theirs to consume, I said calmly. Your clothes are packed in the basement, Mark. Take them and leave. My attorney will be emailing you the divorce papers by Monday. He stared at me, waiting for me to break, waiting for me to cry or apologise. But when he saw absolute unwavering firmness in my eyes, he picked up his bags and walked out. I locked the heavy front door behind him, turned off the porch lights, and poured myself a tall glass of cold, sparkling water. For the first time in 3 years, my home was completely silent. It took 2 weeks to clean the tyre marks off my lawn and repair the irrigation pipes. It took 6 months to finalise my divorce and remove Mark permanently from my life. Evelyn tried to blast me on social media, posting long rants about how I was a heartless woman who ruined a young girl's wedding day. But when my attorney posted the official police report, the judge's eviction order, and the photos of my damaged property in the comments, her own friends turned on her, calling her out for her incredible entitlement. Chloe ended up having a small courthouse wedding 6 months later, but Richard Sterling made sure a prenuptial agreement was signed before a single ring was placed on her finger. People often ask me if I regret making such a public scene on my sister-in-law's wedding day. My answer is always the exact same. When toxic people enter your life, they count on your fear of making a scene to keep you quiet while they take everything you've worked for. They expect you to suffer in silence just to keep their peace. I didn't destroy Chloe's wedding. Evelyn's greed did that all by herself. I simply decided to stop paying the bill for her disrespect. Thank you for watching Calm Drama Stories. If you believe in standing up for your boundaries and never letting family take advantage of your hard work, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay strong and protect your peace.